Hey, what is up guys? Max Weigand here. So today we're going to discuss the power of marginal gains and specifically how tiny 1% improvements can lead to drastic and transformational positive changes in your life. And so in order to explain why this is so powerful, I'm going to share a quick story with you of a British cycling coach named Sir Dave Brailsford. So in 2008, so Dave Brailsford was the coach of the British national cycling team, and they went on to dominate the Olympic Games, win almost all the medals there in cycling. And so 2 years later then, in 2010, Sky asked Sir Dave Brailsford to come onto their team and essentially start a new team and with the goal of creating the first ever British winner of the Tour de France, which is the most competitive and the most popular cycling event in the world. And so he came on, and what he did was he started looking at all of these tiny 1% improvements that you could make to all of the different processes that are related to the athlete's performance. So unlike all the other teams, he did not just take care of the training plan and the nutrition and all of the obvious stuff, but what he also started looking at was all of these tiny little things that no one else seemed to notice. What they did, for example, was they allowed the athletes essentially to bring their beds and their own pillows whenever they were traveling, so that they didn't have to get used to new bed every night, but they could sleep in the same comfortable bed every single night and get a little bit of better rest. They were, painting the room of the mechanical rooms. They were painting those white so they could see any dust, piling up in the mechanical room. They were, trying out different massage gels, different nutritional gels, seeing, does this upset my stomach? Does this actually give me the energy? They're looking at all of these tiny different things that could lead to tiny little improvements in the athlete's performance. And so what happened is within 3 years, the team captain, Bradley Wiggins, became the first British cyclist ever to win the Tour de France. And within the next 5 years, through also Christopher Froome, they won 4 out of 5 Tour de France championships. Now that's really the power of marginal gains and looking at everything in our lives and asking ourselves, how can I make this a tiny bit better? And for you and I, transformation and lasting change are exactly the same thing. The biggest mistake that people make when they're trying to change is they try to go all out right from the start. Meaning they sign up for the gym, they go every single day for like 2 hours, right? They start studying for 12 hours a day, not realizing that this stuff never ever lasts. Why? Because our willpower, our motivation, our ability to change and transform is limited. And when we try to break out too far out of our comfort zone, what's going to happen is we get so overwhelmed, so stressed out that we get fearful, we get afraid, and we start to shrink back. We go back to where we were before. And most people do this over and over again, right? They feel motivated for a week, right? They try really hard, and then all the motivation is gone suddenly. They're freaking out. They're afraid again of like, this feels awkward, this feels weird, I'm uncertain, right? And they shrink back. And so a much better approach to lasting long-term change is by really looking for these tiny 1% improvements, meaning every single day when you wake up, asking yourself, how can I get just 1% better today than I was yesterday? How can I work out just 1 minute more? How can I study maybe 5 minutes longer than I did yesterday? How can I eat just one more piece of vegetable or fruit than I did yesterday? How can I sleep just a tiny little bit better and more comfortable than I did yesterday? How can I connect with one more person today than I did yesterday? And by looking at these tiny areas of improvement, by asking ourselves, not how can I completely change my life in one day, but by asking ourselves, how can I get a little better today than I was yesterday? What is going to happen is you make change a routine. BJ Fogg, Stanford psychologist, calls this tiny habits. He says it's the only way essentially, other than, environmental changes, and we also talk a lot about that on the show, but really he says the best way to change your results, your habits long term is really looking at these tiny habits, looking for tiny improvements. And that's exactly what these marginal gains are about. Looking at the different areas of your life that really matter to you and asking yourself, how can I get just a tiny little bit better today than I was yesterday? So I really want to encourage you to do this, and really what I'm trying to suggest to you is that the way to create lasting change in your life is not through some radical life-changing transformation, but it's really found in your daily habits and ask yourself every day, how can I get better? What are the areas of improvement that are really most important to me? And how can I just try 1 minute harder, 1 minute longer, one more time than I did before? Because as you do that over time, you start to aggregate this compounding effect of this exercise. Just imagine, for example, two people, exact same, right? Exact same genetics, exact same talents, exact same circumstances, and they're starting out at the same time. One person makes a slightly good choice every day, right? They start working out every day for 10 minutes, while the other person makes a slightly worse choice. So they eat a chocolate bar every single day, right? And that's the only difference in their lives. Now, the big challenge then is we're not going to see any difference whatsoever in the beginning. Meaning the difference between eating a chocolate bar and working out every day, in the first day, 2, 3 days, in the first week or two, you're not going to notice any difference. Even a month maybe after starting this. When these two guys look each other, look in the mirror, they're not going to see any difference. But if you fast forward this to 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, the difference is going to be staggering of these tiny little changes. And so really ask yourself, what are these little habits in my life that I can incorporate that over the next 3 months, 6 months, 12 months from now are going to lead to massive changes in the results that I'm seeing in my life? Because when you do that, you make change and transformational actually long lasting. You make it possible and feasible, and by that you will actually manage to create the changes that you want to see in your life. So guys, I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you want my help in really helping you make these changes come true, actually helping you really with the right tools and strategies and the right mindset to make that happen, reach out to me Instagram or on my website maxweiner.com so we can talk about how exactly we can make this happen. All the best from me, and see you soon.